It is 10:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans will travel to Buffalo in Week 2 of the 2022 season as part of a Monday Night Football doubleheader. It was announced this morning. The Titans and Bills will kick off at 6:15 on September 19th. Part 2 of the doubleheader will be Vikings and Eagles on NBC at 7:30. The NFL's 2022 schedule release is this Thursday. For the first time ever, the Nashville Predators are down 3-0 in a playoff series after falling to the Colorado Avalanche in Bridgestone Arena on Saturday. Avs scored 4 unanswered after the game was tied up at 3 for a 7-3 final. Head coach John Hines said yesterday goaltender Juuse Saros will be unavailable for Game 4 tonight as the Preds look to avoid the sweep. Puck drop in Bridgestone Arena is at 8:30. Norris Trophy finalists were announced today for the NHL's best defensemen, and 2 of the 3 have been playing in this series in Nashville's Roman Josi and Colorado's Cale Makar, alongside Victor Hedman of the Lightning. Vezina Trophy finalists will be named tomorrow. NHL analyst Kevin Weeks reporting Preds goalie Juuse Saros will be one of the 3. Around the league, the New York Islanders fired head coach Barry Trotz, of course, the former head coach of the Preds and the Stanley Cup winning coach of the Washington Capitals. Scores last night, 4 different series were knotted up at 2 games apiece. In the West, Blues beat the Wild 5-2. The Kings evened up the series with the Oilers winning 4-0. And in the East, the defending champ Tampa Bay Lightning beat Toronto 7-3. And it was Boston over Carolina 5-2. Dave Romney found the back of the net in the 62nd minute, and C.J. Sapong, with an insurance goal in stoppage time, secured the Nashville Soccer Club's first ever win in Geodis Park on Sunday, 2-0 over Real Salt Lake. NSC will stay at home to host Atlanta on Wednesday in the U.S. Open Cup. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Okay, let's get it going on a Monday. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. We're here with you until 1 o'clock. We, being Lucas Panzica, Robert Walsh, and myself. I'm Buck Reising. Welcome to our radio show. We're happy to have you a part of the proceedings today. 615-737-1045. That's the number for you to jump in on our conversation. 615-737-1045. I'm looking at my show sheet today. I got Preds, Nashville SC, Grizzlies, Kentucky Derby, college football, and Titans. Jam-packed, loaded. We got a lot of ground to cover over the next 3 hours, and we're looking forward to doing it with you. Before we get to everything else that we have planned today, I have to start with the thing that I was in attendance for on Saturday, which was another embarrassment by the Nashville Predators in this playoff series. Now, Lucas, what was the final score? Because you said a score that was unfamiliar to me. I left when they went down 6-3.
7-3 the final.
7-3 the final. So I was accused, in fact, somebody accused me on Twitter of leaving during the second period. I guess I was being watched in my seats. I do not appreciate you narcs out there. I, in fact, stayed until they went down 6-3, and then I said, get the hell out of here. Enough of this.
That's when I stopped watching.
Oof. Goodness. That's 2 games. 2 out of 4 games, or rather 2 out of 3 games where they've given up 7 damn goals. What is wrong with the hockey team? It is history in all the wrong ways that this Preds team, in franchise history, the first to go down 0-3 in a playoff series. I'm going to be there tonight because our good friends at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, who make everything with this show possible, they have been kind enough to give me tickets to go to tonight's game. And certainly, I was not going to turn down the opportunity. I don't turn down free things, just on principle, except for the mountains of food that are in the studio today, because 220 by training camp is the goal, and that is not going to be conducive to my strategy here. But I don't turn down free stuff. So I'm going to the game tonight. But, I mean, damn them. Honestly, at this point. And it's not even like it's Connor Ingram's fault. He didn't play well. I mean, he didn't play overwhelmingly well. But he got no help in front of him at all. through 3 games. And much less to go to the postgame press conference. I did not go to the postgame press conference. I was not there in an official capacity. I was there to get drunk and watch hockey. And I had a great time. Had a great evening. Outside of, honestly, Roman Josi, that lightning bolt that he sent into the Colorado net, that was about the last moment of feel-good that you had in Game 3. And then what? It wasn't 2 minutes later that Colorado scored on Connor Ingram yet again to further the margin. And you just felt, or at least I did, sitting down there, I just looked at it. They can't skate with these guys. They got nothing for them. This is the first time in franchise history that they've been down 0-3, and likely the first time in franchise history that they're going to get swept. I can't imagine anybody has any belief in them tonight.
Just keep coming back to that regular season finale against Arizona.
It's an embarrassment. And I'm not saying anything that everybody in that organization doesn't know. And I'm not trying to do scorched earth today just because I happen to be at the hockey game, another hockey game where they got their asses kicked. By the way, I'm 0-4.
This season?
As somebody who's been to Preds games, I am bad luck.
I should have gotten those tickets. I think they're undefeated when I'm in the building.
Well, listen, don't talk to me about you should have gotten tickets when I through circumstances outside of my own control, had the opportunity to go to the Nashville SC game, who was victorious 2-0 at Geodis Park, the first official win at the new soccer stadium. And you kept me from that.
That was on you.
No, it was not.
Holding you to that one.
It was, in fact, not on me. We'll explain more of that later. But as far as the Preds are concerned, it is an outright embarrassment. And it made even worse because I saw clips from the postgame press conference. Now, admittedly, I'm not in the Preds postgame press conferences. Covering one team full time is enough. If I happen to get the opportunity to go to other sporting events, I just want to enjoy them. I don't want to have to work. And other than taking notes on my phone throughout the course of that game of things that I wanted to talk about today. But I saw some clips being tweeted out by Alex Doherty, the Preds writer at A to Z Sports. Alex will be here in just about 10 minutes, and we will discuss the implications of this with him. But he tweeted out a clip of John Hines talking about challenging the goal down 3-0. Because when we were out on the... What are you making a face at me for? That's what it says on my grid. Challenge of being down 3. Oh, I read it wrong. That's on me.
Oh, that's funny, though.
That's the second time I did that today. I'm driving home from a workout this morning, which, by the way, every time I say that in the microphone, somebody says, "Oh, you don't work out." Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Okay, I was in the car. I got the email from the NFL about the Titans and Bills being announced week 2 Monday Night Football on ESPN, and I misread it because I was tweeting and driving. Don't tweet and drive, kids. And so that's the second time that I've misread something today. Anyway, the challenge of being down 3-0.
Not the challenge.
Although the challenge was stupid, too.
I thought he had a case, personally. And actually, the broadcast did, too. I think it was TNT. The TNT broadcast was saying, oh, yes, this will be overturned. And they were shocked when he lost the challenge.
I will tell you that in the arena, in Section 104, row double D, they did not believe that he had a case because many people were complaining about the idea that John Hines had challenged. Now, maybe that was after the fact because he lost the challenge. But the point being, they're down 0-3 for the first time in their franchise history. This is what John Hines had to say about his team's performance.
Like this. Yeah, you have to win one. I think when you look at it right now, we got a group that's been resilient. We know what it is. We know we're in a series, and you're not out of a series until it hits 4. So, our objective isn't where it's going is we have to rest and recover and regroup a little bit tomorrow. We got to get back ready to play a game on Monday.
I don't want to hear about all the things that your team has done well to build upon. Buddy, you're down 0-3. I give a damn about building upon. You got nothing left to build upon. You're building your house on a foundation of sand. And I'm watching your defense crumble in front of your rookie goaltender who just needs a little bit of help. God forbid he doesn't have another spectacular performance like he did in Game 2 on the road in Colorado. He did not have one of those on Saturday afternoon. They failed him. They failed Connor Ingram the same way that they failed Dave Riddick. And it's not, I'm not looking at the UC Soros thing anymore and saying, oh, they never had a shot. They never had a shot.
Soros, by the way, reportedly a finalist for the Vezina Trophy.
Swell. They can remember this Predator season if and likely when they get swept tonight. They can remember this Predator season for all of the great trophies they won, all of the single season records that they broke. And by the way, I don't mean to diminish those accomplishments, but damn, if they get swept tonight, that is a massive indictment, not just of the coaching staff, not just of John Hines, of the players who are out on the ice, and the lack of help that they're giving the person or people responsible for trying to pick up the pieces that UC Soros left with that high ankle sprain. That's a nightmare scenario for the Nashville Predators. And for as much, I mean, just first-round disappointments, man. Like, enough of this already. You have the Titans in January. You have the Preds likely tonight, just falling flat. Now, far be it for any of us to be critical of playoff appearances when those things, especially for the football team, were rare enough until the last basically 4 or 5 years, 5-6 years, I suppose. But for the Nashville Predators, man, I don't think much. I haven't thought much of this postseason performance at all, and I imagine neither do people in that organization who are tasked with trying to pick up the pieces for this thing. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you would like to weigh in questions, comments, concerns, opinions about the Nashville Predators and their playoff chances, what percentage chance do you give them of avoiding the sweep tonight? Because at this point, I'm banking on desperation, like just pure desperation. And even then, it may not be enough because Colorado is just overwhelming. And they may be that to a great many other hockey teams. They may go on to win the Stanley Cup, and they certainly look like somebody or a team that is fully capable of doing so as the class of the Western Conference this season. But I'm looking at them, and I give them a 0.01% chance to win that game tonight, and only 0.01 because of the nature of them physically being on the ice, which means I have to give them some kind of chance to win tonight. It's disappointing. Roman Josi spoke about this on Saturday evening after the game was lost. Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, our Preds writer, will be in here as well. You'll hear from the captain coming up next.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Buddy, you're reading my mind today. I was at Just Love before the where am I hearing that? Oh, that's my phone. My phone's got the show open. I was sharing it around on Facebook. My bad. I was at Just Love before the show started. They were playing this song.
Tracy Chapman.
And I thought this would be a good one to hear this morning. Good on you, Lucas.
Preds need to give us a reason.
There is none. Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, our fantastic Preds writer, joins us in studio now. Hello, friend.
Hello, how are you? Sounds like you had a great time at the game.
You know, I did have a tremendous time at the game. I always have a good time when I go to Bridgestone. It has nothing to do with what's happening on the ice. But I got loaded about 1:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. I had myself a day. Other than that, one much else to, enjoy. Everything else around, before, after the hockey game, great. The hockey game itself, woo.
There were some kind of not great vibes at the beginning of that game. I think it was kind of tough to get in. It was like it certainly was not full at the very beginning of the game. Would you agree?
Yeah, oh, sure. Well, I was one of the people who was stuck on the outside. Now, I have a conflict when it comes to these kind of conversations, okay?
Okay.
Because I don't have to wait, and there's no way for me to not sound like a D-bag by saying this. I don't wait in lines at Titans games to get in. I don't have to wait in concession stand line because I'm working, right? I don't screw around. I have parking, like all these things. So I try not to actively complain about those things when I do because it makes me sound even worse. But yeah, it took me about 20, 25 minutes to get into Bridgestone Arena. I missed all the pomp and circumstance beforehand. So you tell me, was it a weird vibe?
Yeah, it was fairly, I would put it the percentage around 75% in the seats at puck drop. 75, maybe 80%, which is very odd for a Preds playoff game. That really has kind of been typical for this year. So like it could just be a matter of the way that the fan base has kind of slowly changed over the course of a few years. But for a playoff game, I didn't expect that. Now, it was full by the time, I don't know, by the 10-minute mark of the first period, definitely full by then. And very loud. I mean, the fans that were there were loud. I mean, That wasn't a question. But that was kind of interesting, and I think goes to part of what we're talking about today with the fact that this team is on the verge of doing something no Predators team has ever done for a bad reason, being swept, which seems extremely likely tonight since UC Saros is not going to go. It's going to be Connor Ingram probably in there again. So many of the team's big players are not playing that way. Philip Forsberg, 0 points. Ryan Johansson has 1 point. Roman Josi has a goal and an assist. Matt Duchene has 3 goals. Matt Duchene's been good.
But, I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from Duchene because it's more than Forsberg and Johansson are doing, but like the two in game one, I mean, down.
Yeah, I mean, but you score a goal, if you average a goal per game in the playoffs, you're doing good.
Okay.
That's fine.
Fair.
So I think you can give Matt Duchene credit for what he's done. Everyone else deserves no credit. I would even say Roman Josi has not been very good. He had that sparkling goal, power play goal. That was an awesome goal.
Just a rocket.
Yeah, that was beautiful. He has done a lot of he's really kind of not done the things that we've seen him do. He has not fueled the offense like we've seen. On defense, he's been kind of overrun. Like there's been a lot of things there. But there's other guys to blame too. Look, Tanner Jeannot, Yakov Trenin, Colton Sissons, that's been such a huge part of this season, and they've done nothing. I mean, Yakov Trenin had the goal in game 2. That was a great goal. Colton Sissons really has been nowhere. Tanner Jeannot, look, that kid has a lot of promise. He's scored 24 goals this year. I think going forward, he's going to be a big part.
Sure.
He's been nowhere in this playoffs.
What do you attribute that to? Is there anything that you're seeing on the ice from him? Is there anything that you guys are talking about in the post-game press conference that would allude to why he's disappeared? Because we talk about the star power, and you mentioned the names at the top of the marquee, and that speaks, I think, to the kind of paper-thin depth that we talked about all season long. But in the case of Tanner Jeannot, is there something identifiable that you're seeing on the ice?
His whole game has been, it starts and finishes with his physical ability, his ability to knock guys off the puck. And he's just not fast enough to get to these guys. He's not been able to really employ his strength, which is his size and his strength. His ability to be physical on the ice has been completely taken away because the Avalanche, when they get the puck, are skating circles around everyone.
They're so much faster. So much faster.
Yeah, it's nuts. So that combined with, I think matchups have been particularly bad for that line because I think John Hines is trying to, he's also moved some players around. He's trying to find something that works, kind of throwing some stuff at the wall here and moving stuff around. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to do it. The Jeannot line, I think, is the only line that is maybe as a line, as an entire unit, is more responsible for the Predators just completely being off the board offensively throughout this whole series. Look, Philip Forsberg individually has looked okay. He's just not gotten the goal production. He's not gotten any production. Individually, I think he looks the part. But that line, the Jeannot line, has not been, and I keep calling it the Jeannot line, it's really the Sissons line because he's the center, has not looked like we've seen this past year. They were a huge part of this team. And so, if that line can get going tonight, maybe they stave off elimination. But, I don't know why you'd think that after the first 3 games of this series.
Much less to hear the coach talk. Like, you sent me that clip of John Hines speaking yesterday about the challenges of being down 0-3. Lucas, let's hear from the Preds head coach one more time before Alex and I discuss this.
Like this. Yeah, you have to win one. I think when you look at it right now, we got a group that's been resilient. We know what it is. We know we're in a series, and you're not out of a series until it hits 4. So, our objective isn't, where it's going. Is we have to rest and recover and regroup a little bit tomorrow. And we got to get back ready to play a game on Monday.
Well, he's got to motivate his guys. He's got to. I think the whole press conference yesterday, what stood out to me was, It sounded like, okay, so John Hines really comes in 2 flavors for postgame. He comes in a just kind of positive, motivating, educating style where he's just like talking about some X's and O's, and he's saying, well, we did really good in this situation. We need to work on this, and there's some things on special teams we need to work on. And then the other flavor is the angry, we didn't have our game tonight, very short. And this is, a lot of coaches are like this. I was expecting the second John Hines yesterday. I was expecting an angry, we didn't have it tonight, and we didn't deserve to win, and that was kind of it. Maybe a little bit of talk about the goaltending interference call. We got the first John Hines, the sort of calm teacher approach, sort of like, I think we did some really good things 5-on-5, and we really had some good angles, and I really liked our chemistry at 5-on-5. Special teams wasn't great, but there's these things that happen. Look, that kind of thing does not work when you are down 0-3 for the first time in the playoffs in your franchise history. That doesn't work. I don't know what works, but it's not that, because that is not going to suit any fan base to just say, well, some things worked well. That works well December against, St. Louis.
Sure.
It doesn't work in May or in the playoffs.
Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports is here with us in studio. We're talking about the Preds down in a hole 0-3 in their first round playoff series, likely their only round playoff series of this Stanley Cup postseason. At Alex Doherty 1 is where you can follow him on Twitter for all the insights and analysis regarding the Nashville Predators. Game 4 tonight, 8:30 puck drop. I'll be there. Alex will be there, and we will see what they can do. You talk about Hines. How much of the burden is on him? Because while we understand that the performance on the ice itself is not adequate, the goal, whomever is in goal is not getting help. What I don't get the sense that Hines, in that moment, listening to those comments Saturday evening, I don't get the sense that Hines has an answer here.
I would agree. And look, I think John Hines probably will be back next year, and I think that's actually an okay move. I don't have any issue with the way John Hines is coached. Look, he turned around a really devastating situation at the end of Laviolette into a team that has an identity again. But I think there's serious questions about the way this team is constructed, and that really only comes down to David Poile. Now, if David Poile is, for some reason, not around any longer, then John Hines is probably not here because he's Poile's guy, right?
Right, and whomever comes in after Poile, at whatever point that happens, in the future, or in the immediate future and in the seasons to come, one would imagine that they would want their own guy.
But I think what I was going to say about Hines is I think that style, that the sort of mentor, educator, motivator guy, that is the kind of coach that is going to make it in today's league. That is kind of where coaching is headed. It's we're done with the old hat, the bulldog coach of the 80s, 90s, 2000s even. Like that's just not really around anymore. Hines is the kind of guy, I don't know if he's the guy, but that's the kind of approach, the kind of mentality that this kind of a team needs. Whether he can actually get them to a place they've never been before and actually win a championship, I don't know, but he's young enough to give him plenty of chances to do it. But like I said, if David Poyle's not around, I think all bets are off and the total reconstruction of everything happens.
And that's the biggest question, right? Like, David Poyle has earned the right to go out on his own terms. Nobody is disputing that. Or do you disagree?
No, I agree with that. That's how it'll happen. I mean, he will definitely go out on his own terms. He's not going to get fired.
They're not going to fire franchise legend, first general manager ever, who's seen, 23 seasons of Nashville Predators. Mm-hmm. Hockey, the winningest GM in the history of professional hockey. This is something that is on his resume, but while I am hugely respectful of everything that Poyle has done for hockey in this city and for hockey fans in this city and for, frankly, just the state of professional hockey in general, I don't give a damn about your resume if you get swept in the first round.
That's exactly what I was going to say. A sweep, that changes things. That changes mindsets, right? It changes a fan base. If your fan base, which, by the way, has started to, some of the shine has come off of it in terms of, you don't see quite as many gold jerseys downtown as you did.
It's the least amount of playoff hype around a Preds series that I have felt in 7 years here. If
you see that continue, and then you have you get swept, and I think this is the straw here. If Philip Forsberg's not re-signed, if they get swept, Philip Forsberg walks. I could see it then. I could see a non-mutual parting.
It's always mutual. It's always mutual, even if it doesn't say. Lucas just whispered in my ear the return of Barry Trotz. What the hell are you doing back there?
Some phone lines. Come on.
This is because you've heard the news, right?
He was fired today.
So Lou Lamoriello, GM of the Islanders, has announced that Barry Trotz has been relieved of his duties. So Twitter is aflame with Barry Trotz conspiracies and returning. So there's not nothing there, right?
I like that.
There's not nothing there. It is interesting timing. It's like, this happened literally the day that the Predators probably are going to get eliminated. Like on the same day that the Predators are probably eliminated from the playoffs, yes. Barry Trotz is available.
It took 2 seasons.
I know, and the Islanders, I'm not exactly sure what happened there because, look, Barry Trotz took them to a conference final 2 years in a row, and then one bad year, and he's gone. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but didn't he kind of he wore out his welcome in Washington pretty quickly too, right?
Yeah, and that was also a mystery. So there's some, and look, the ending of the Trotz era in Nashville with David Poyle was a power struggle that Trotz lost. Would Barry Trotz come back to Nashville with David Poyle at the helm? Or, like we talked about, if they get swept, Forsberg walks, David Poyle's no longer in charge, opens the door for Barry Trotz to walk in. I'm just saying,
what are you trying to do to my radio show today?
Go backwards to go forwards.
What are you doing, Alex? And what are you doing back there? Now you don't want to sit there and slave over the phone lines like the Popeyes chicken sandwich lady. You don't want to do that. What are you trying to start today?
I'm trying to spice things up a little bit. I'm tired of the phone lines blowing up over A.J. Brown and the Titans. Let's switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you want Preds outrage. You want controversy with the local professional hockey team because you're sick of the Tannehill and AJ.
You want to talk about bringing back some of the old fans that maybe walked away over the last few years?
Sure.
Barry Trotz would do that. People love Barry Trotz. I mean, love that guy.
I can't believe this is a real conversation that we're having.
Yeah. No, it's a real conversation. Look, I don't know how real it is because there's other coaching opportunities he might like better. I think there's thoughts that Detroit would probably let Jeff Blashill go, and that's a pretty good young team. Can you imagine Barry Trotz in Detroit coaching for the Red Wings? That would be pretty funny. I don't know what San Jose's situation is like. Maybe he wants to go to California. I don't know. So there's a lot of options that he could go to.
Point being, there's a lot of uncertainty in the future of this franchise, and it's predicated on whether they get swept or not tonight.
Yep. Yes. There's actually, this might be the most consequential, meaningless game. I don't know if that makes any sense, but essentially it's a meaningless game. Even if the Predators win it, there's no way they beat Colorado in 4 straight games.
Yeah.
So like they could win tonight and then they probably lose Wednesday. It's a meaningless game, but at the same time, it's very consequential because they get swept, they lose Forsberg. Wow. A lot could happen over the next few months for Nashville in terms of the hockey team. So yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah, the Trotz thing happened like, I don't know, an hour before I got here. And I was like,
I didn't see that this morning.
I was kind of wondering if we were going to go there. And I think it makes sense. It's not irrelevant. It is a factor now. It is all of a sudden a factor in everything that's happening with this hockey team.
Alex Doherty at Alex Doherty1 in studio with us. Preds and Avalanche tonight, 8:30 Central Time, puck drop at Bridgestone Arena. Elimination game for the Nashville Predators in their first round playoff series. So with all of this that you're talking about, now the attention, I think, in a way that, I mean, it's not new because this has been swirling around Poile for what, 3 years now? As far as construction of the roster and are they doing the things to keep this a competitive, quote-unquote, Stanley Cup contender? Am I mistaken?
No, I think it depends on who you ask. I think some people would say after the President's Trophy year that they didn't get past the second round. Some people would say the Dallas year. I think COVID has given him a buffer, honestly. Sure. Like, I mean, there's been a lot of giving him the benefit of the doubt because of the COVID situation the last 2 years, especially with being able to pay big money for free agents or anything like that. But this is, we're kind of past that. Like, I think that, he's fired his coaches. He's moved huge contracts in and out. He's signed the guys that he wanted to sign, Matt Duchene. He's made trades that he wanted to make. He's gotten his guys in his place, and he's done that for many years now. He is the last domino, right? I mean, it's only him that can change at this point that would really make consequential change happen, I think. And so, if the only way we would see it is, again, I think if they don't get swept and they sign Philip Forsberg back, he's probably back next year and probably large. I mean, he's already committed to like having a really kind of soft ending to his career. I mean, I think next year would be kind of his last year and until potentially Brian Poile takes over. And we don't know how much of that assistant GM partnership has already been taking place, but that's kind of the thought. I mean, that's what people expect, the sort of GM in waiting. But if Forsberg isn't signed, they get swept, and there's real movement to get Poile out, you could see a totally different hockey team in 2 years.
Would that not be, because I maintain, and we'll get you out of here on this, I maintain that they need to. This thing is stale as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm not taking away from likely Norris Trophy winner Roman Josi. I'm not taking away from single-season goal records with Duchene and Forsberg, franchise leader in goals, Philip Forsberg, like all of the things that they have accomplished this season. Fair. But is this not the tipping point for where this particular roster has plateaued? Because that's all I could help feeling while watching them just get thoroughly outmatched on Saturday afternoon at Bridgestone Arena.
Well, Buck, I am actually going to say this. Not to be a total tease, but I am working on something that is going to answer that question, and I think I have a take that really makes sense in terms of what they should do with the David Poile situation. That will be coming out on A2ZSports.com very soon, probably this week, assuming tonight goes the way I think it's going to go. But I will say this: I don't want to leave everyone totally in the dark.
No, I think you could do that.
The GM situation for me has always been, do you have more hits than misses? If you have more hits than misses, you're good. If your batting average is league average or better, you're good. You're going to have a job. Mm-hmm. I think if the things happen the way they could happen, they get swept, they don't keep Philip Forsberg, that switches for David Poile, and he has more misses than hits, in which case you got to move on.
A2ZSports.com is where you can read the forthcoming opinion from Alex Doherty at Alex Doherty1 about the Preds. Also, the On the Preds podcast, available every Sunday in the A2Z Sports Podcast network feed. You guys have been doing it from the arena.
We did a post game from the arena. That was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I'm certain that's true.
It was very empty in there, but yeah.
Buddy, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, exactly.
Traffic cleared up.
Thanks for having me.
You back there. I'll deal with you in a second. There's a lot of other things that are happening in local sports, but I want to react to some of that stuff that Alex just dropped on us on the way out the door. We'll do that. Your phone calls as well coming up next. I don't know if there's good vibrations in Bridgestone Arena. Alex didn't seem like, I guess more people than just me, and obviously more people than just me, had trouble getting into the damn thing on Saturday afternoon. But the thing he brought up about the fan base, I think is pretty interesting. Speaking of which, this is probably poor timing to do it, but according to the paper in front of me, it's playoff time in Smashville. What are you laughing about back there?
I was saving good vibrations because I thought they were going to take at least 1 or 2 games in this series. Alex did too, so I was saving good vibrations for that, but it doesn't seem as though that's going to be the case, so we'll play it today.
Buddy, they're dead on arrival. It's playoff time in Smashville, according to the paper in front of me, as the Nashville Predators host the Colorado Avalanche tonight for Game 4 of the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. You can listen, if nothing else, here's what you can do. You can go get bleep-faced at Poncho and Lefties with Blaine and Mickey in 3HL before this damn game takes place. Because if nothing else, even if the hockey team is a massive disappointment in the way that they've performed in the postseason, you can go drown your sorrows and, potentially hype yourself up for an 8:30 puck drop at Poncho and Lefties, because Blaine and Mickey and 3HL are going to be out there at the Poncho and Lefties across from the Bridgestone Arena Plaza from 1 to 6, drink specials and more before cheering on your Nashville Predators tonight. And even if you don't cheer them on, even if you just want to get drunk and then boo them for how disappointing they've been, you can do that full speed.
Go eat some tacos. Watch Ron Slay take his shirt off.
Why is he taking his shirt off?
He usually does when he ends up at that rooftop on Poncho and Lefties.
That can't be. That's going to bring their health code rating down, right? A shirtless Slay? That's a lot of surface area.
I think he's got a wife beater under there.
Okay, well,
Last time he did.
I don't want that while I'm trying to enjoy a meal.
Great tacos.
He tweeted me because I said I had said that I was going to the hockey game. He tweeted me, take your shirt off, put your belly on the glass, and take a beer to the head. Does any of that sound like me? No. The Preds are looking for a reason to throw my ass out of Bridgestone Arena anyway, for as bad as I've been talking about their team this week. But yeah, Blaine and Mickey, 3HL, Poncho and Lefties, 1 to 6 today. So at least you can go get drunk before the hockey team gets bounced. So as far, and we'll leave it on this note because there's a lot of other things that I want to talk about today, and the Preds certainly will have reaction to that tomorrow, depending on how this goes down. Of course, I'll be in Bridgestone Arena tonight. I think that what Alex said about the David Poile situation bears watching because, and I must admit, I don't know in great detail all the intricacies of how it is that the Nashville Predators are run, how much Brian Poile, the son of David Poile, is actually involved with the transactions, the day-to-day roster managing, as opposed to how much of it is just David Poile. Like, I don't want to be doing to David Poile what we did to Shane Bowen, right, where it's just one face where you associate it with all the bad problems. Because there's more people that work for David Poile than just David Poile. But that idea is interesting to me because if David Poile steps down or they mutually agree to part ways and David Poile rides off into the sunset, they can't just give that job to his son, can they? People would lose their damn minds. Because if, in fact, Brian Poile is considerably involved in the day-to-day management of the roster, then we're already experiencing what the Brian Poile situation would look like. I don't want to sign up for that. I don't think Preds fans would either. Just something to keep in mind if potentially their season does end tonight and we kind of see the ripple effects of that go through the organization. It'll be curious to watch. Now, there was a team that won yesterday, a local team. The Nashville Soccer Club got their first win at Geodis Park. We can't do a Panzika Preds Minute because I've just done 51 of them. But let's do a Nashville Soccer Minute with Lucas Panzika.
First 3 points inside the friendly confines of Geodis Park, a 2-0 win over Real Salt Lake, avenging an early season loss where they fell on the road 2-1 at Real Salt Lake, a game that they probably were the better team in, surrendered a couple of set-piece goals, so they kind of corrected that yesterday. And a good all-around performance. Dave Romney finds the back of the net. CJ Sapong with the insurance goal in stoppage time. Another great crowd, 28,000+ people. Not quite a sellout, but they'll be back at it on Wednesday against Atlanta Atlanta United in the U.S. Open Cup. And for anybody that is sick of seeing draws, didn't have to see one yesterday. The team got the win. But the U.S. Open Cup is a separate competition from the MLS regular season. There cannot be a draw. It's either a winner or somebody gets eliminated against Atlanta United. It is the round of 32 to win and advance into the round of 16 of the Open Cup. So it's a tournament across all levels of American professional soccer, and it is the round of 32, I believe a 7 o'clock kick on Wednesday against Atlanta.
Now, I have to figure out how I'm going to get to Geodis Park on Wednesday because I have the primetime show. I haven't figured out how I'm going to maneuver that. I'm already having to maneuver tonight to get to Bridgestone Arena, but at least 8:30 gives me a little more wiggle room to do so. Well, you want to tell people how you screwed me out of my ticket yesterday?
Well, before that, I will tell you that your season tickets do not apply on Wednesday because the U.S. Open Cup is not a part of the MLS season. Your season tickets are strictly for MLS regular season home games.
I don't like that.
Since nothing is guaranteed in the U.S. Open Cup, if they win and they move on to the round of 16, then that's just an extra thing that you buy tickets for. It's not part of your season ticket package. But the prices, you can get tickets for $20 in the lower bowl. I just bought them like an hour ago.
Okay, so tell people why you screwed me out of my ticket yesterday.
I didn't. You were supposed to be in Evansville, so I had an extra ticket on my hands. My roommate Blue was doing Mother's Day things with his mom at the Sounds game, and so I hit up my buddy Max Hers, who does a great job broadcasting for Vanderbilt, a few other things in this city. So Max and I went and enjoyed the game together. You informed me about an hour, maybe 2 hours before kickoff yesterday that you were indeed in town. You did not go to Evansville, but I put that blame on you for not letting me know before I gave away your ticket.
You're blaming me for my sister getting COVID, and that's why I couldn't go home for Mother's Day.
Yes.
That's excellent by you. Excellent job by you. So I hope you had a lovely time yesterday on a beautiful day in Nashville, Tennessee. Geodis Park looked like a fantastic environment. I was very, very salty to not be a part of it. 615-737-1045. So good on Nashville SC for securing their first victory in their new stadium, 2-0 over Real Salt Lake. Derek R. writes in the YouTube chat, Vibe Runner says, is this a situation similar to Blaine not getting his ticket? Yeah, you've screwed two people out of tickets here recently. Blaine Bishop came in here the other day and said that you had stolen his parking pass.
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
No, Caleb Farley, you do not get to rebuke that. These are proven facts. I was screwed out of a ticket yesterday. Blaine Bishop did not get his parking pass for the home opener. Both of the root causes of those things are Lucas Panzica. Defend yourself.
Yeah, the Nashville SC ticket bandit. I guess that's what I am in this building.
Derek R. says, are you ready to admit that you're a Preds fan yet, Buck? I mean, I don't I don't know that I am. I don't know that I'm not. Like, here's what I'll say. I like to go to the games, and I don't have to work them, so I'm going as a fan. That makes me a fan. Sure, completely, and I'm not like actively fighting against that. The one thing that I do get every time I go, I hate the yellow. I cannot stand that awful yellow color. Nobody looks good in it other than the players who are out on the ice. Like that, I'm never going to do. So I can't get, and Nashville SC too. Like the yellow does not do it for me.
You don't like the yellow? Is there a yellow that you don't like more than the other? Or are they both just
between
Preds
and
yes.
Nashville SC?
Yeah, because they both call it gold.
They do?
Yes, they're both labeled gold as the official colors.
Well, the Preds look like dehydrated urine. That's what I most associate that particular shade of yellow with. Nashville SC looks like a highlighter, which would be just generally more aesthetically pleasing than what I've just mentioned. Now, I'm sure other people would not compare it to dehydrated urine, but that's what I associate it with. Every time I see it. I don't think anybody looks good in that color, except for the players.
Well, we had about 35 minutes of productive hockey and soccer talk.
Wait, what do you mean?
Before shifting to, it looks like a highlighter.
You want me to lie? You want me to lie to people?
We're just like resetting to default, talking about the colors.
I'm not resetting to default. I was asked a question. I gave it. It's like Ryan Tannehill being asked the mentor or the Malik Willis question. You asked me a question. I gave you an answer. It's not my fault if you don't like my answer. Josh Pate of CBS Sports and 247 Sports is going to be in here with us. There's some pretty seismic shifting happening in the world of college football. We will discuss that with our good buddy Josh Pate coming up next.
It is 11:03. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans will travel to Buffalo in week 2 of the 2022 season as part of a Monday Night Football doubleheader. It was announced this morning. Titans and Bills will kick off at 6:15 on September 19th on ESPN. Part 2 of the doubleheader will be Vikings and Eagles at 7:30 on NBC. The NFL's 2022 schedule release is this Thursday. For the first time ever, the Nashville Predators are down 3-0 in a playoff series after falling to the Colorado Avalanche in Bridgestone Arena on Saturday. Avs scored 4 unanswered goals after the game was tied up at 3, and it was a 7-3 final. Head coach John Hines said yesterday goaltender UC Saros will be unavailable for Game 4 tonight as the Preds look to avoid getting swept for the first time ever as a franchise. Puck drop in Bridgestone Arena is at 8:30. Norris Trophy finalists were announced today for the NHL's best defensemen. 2 of them have been playing in this series, Nashville's Roman Josi and Colorado's Cale Makar, alongside Victor Hedman of the Lightning. Also, Vezina Trophy finalists will be announced tomorrow. NHL analyst Kevin Weeks reporting this morning, Preds goalie UC Saros will be one of the 3. Dave Romney found the back of the net in the 62nd minute, and CJ Sapong with an insurance goal in stoppage time secured Nashville Soccer Club's first ever win at Geodis Park on Sunday, 2-0 over Real Salt Lake. NSC will stay at home, hosting Atlanta United on Wednesday in the U.S. Open Cup. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome in hour number 2, off and rolling on this Monday. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, but we're happy to have you back for another week of work. We're going to help you get at least 2 more hours through your workday. Lucas Panzica, Robert Walsh, back there behind the scenes making it happen. Our buddy Josh Pate is going to be here in just about 15 minutes from now. And, Lucas, you just confirmed to me that we will be having an unexpected guest in the noon hour today. You want to tell people who's on the show?
Yeah, just got confirmation back from Oklahoma State. We will have OK State defensive coordinator, former Vanderbilt head coach, and former Auburn defensive coordinator, Derrick Mason, at 12:20 to talk about Roger Mccreary.
Looking forward to chatting with Coach Mason. It's been a long time. And obviously, we want to discuss his pupil with the Auburn Tigers last year, Roger Mccreary, the Titans' second-round pick. So we'll do that at 12:20 with Coach Mason today. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to participate in today's show. 615-737-1045. It was a fun sports weekend. I mean, Preds got dummied. Grizzlies lost. The controversy around the Memphis Grizzlies I found pretty interesting because I was reading the head coach Taylor Jenkins' comments about it after the fact. Because he's not going to play. Ja's not going to play tonight, in all likelihood, for Game 4 of their series with the Golden State Warriors. But Taylor Jenkins said likely he will miss the game this evening. And the Grizzlies did not immediately detail the exact nature of what happened to Ja's knee. But the clip that was going around was pretty, I thought it was pretty mild. Some people thought it was awfully nefarious because Jordan Poole in Game 3 looked like he was grabbing, well, he did. He did grab Ja Morant's knee while going for a basket on a trap near half court. This was like, I think, in the 4th quarter of Game 3. Grizz obviously lost in that game and will likely be without Ja tonight. But I didn't think anything of it, even as they showed the replay, and that was the play that Ja got hurt. I didn't think that Jordan Poole did anything wrong, but apparently Taylor Jenkins, the head coach of the Grizz, felt differently.
Yeah, he's getting evaluated now. Nothing further. I mean, we just watched the replay. He was going after a dribble, and Jordan Poole actually grabbed his knee and yanked it, which kind of triggered whatever happened. So I'm actually going to be very curious to see what happens after that.
There is.
Grabbed his knee and yanked it. Now, I did not see a grab and yank, understanding that Taylor Jenkins is probably going to be a little tense, a little tight after the way that they lost and after the fact that he's probably losing. Well, he likely has lost his best player for at least game 4, and how long the knee injury keeps Ja down, we don't know yet.
And coming off the Steve Kerr comments about a dirty play with Dylan Brooks, Ja Morant immediately took to Twitter saying, quote, broke the code before deleting it quickly.
Wait, he A.J. Browned it?
Yeah, you missed that?
I didn't see that. Well, yeah, I'll be honest, I was very drunk on Saturday.
It just said, quote, broke the code after the game, and then is no longer up.
Okay, put it on the poll at Buck Reising. Did Ja Morant A.J. Brown it? No context, yes or no. Just that on the poll at Buck Reising. We, of course, update the polls presented by Two Rivers Ford at the end of each radio show. So, I mean, clearly grabbed his knee, but nothing about that looked nefarious to me. And as I said, it's completely understandable why Taylor Jenkins would be a little tight about it afterwards. And there's clearly tension between the Grizzlies and the Warriors throughout the course of this playoff game. Now, they lost by 30 points. Like, it was more than just Ja that was causing them to that had them down bad the way that they did. And Ja could be seen, according to the ESPN report, walking with a limp toward the team bus following the 142-112 loss. 142 points. The hell happened to the Grizzlies defense on Saturday? What a nightmare scenario. So, something to keep in mind, Grizz are 20-5 this season without Ja Morant. He missed 9 straight games in March and April because of right knee soreness, which is what this is being ruled as now. I believe it was also the right knee that was grabbed by Jordan Poole. How much people are going to try and, I think even the most unobjective of Grizzlies homers would look at that and say, yeah, it's just a basketball play. Like, he's just trying to make a play on the ball. He's just trying to get the ball in that moment. And Ja's, what? Oh, you disagree?
How much does intention matter, though? It's more about what the action was, right?
Oh, I think intent matters very, very much. Very, very much.
I mean, when determining whether or not something is a foul, a lot of times, whether or not it was intended, if the contact was still made, it's still a foul. Now, I understand intention matters more when you're talking about like a flagrant 2, but if he grabbed his knee, he grabbed his knee.
Do we think that Dylan Brooks intended to shatter Gary Payton Jr.'s, elbow?
No, I don't.
Suspension. I think that intent does play a part, arbitrary or not, in how these things are metered out, how these things are decided as far as the NBA league office is concerned. Especially when the NBA has put its full marketing power behind the star of Ja, because that's without question. The NBA is supporting Ja and propping up Ja as the next coming of superstardom in their league. He's all over the commercials. He's all over the marketing. That's clearly something that they are not only heavily investing in, they're trying to get other people to be heavily invested in. If they see a situation that can be deemed nefarious and they think that's the reason why Ja Morant's not going to play in Game 4 after losing by 30 points, then yeah, that's probably going to factor into their decision-making, whether you believe that to be right, wrong, or indifferent. I think that's a fair way to go about that. As far as the Grizzlies are concerned, I don't know about them surviving this playoff series. What I know is that Golden State, and it's a wretched sports cliche. I don't know how else to do the analysis other than to say the Golden State Warriors, as a franchise, understand what it is to be able to close out meaningful playoff games. And what I do not see from the Memphis Grizzlies is that just yet. Ja is far too streaky. Superstar, yes. Hugely talented, yes. Far too streaky on a night-by-night basis. I love the 47 points in Game 2, but when you lose by 30 points in a playoff game, there's just too many peaks and valleys as far as the Grizz experience is concerned. Now, I hope they have success. I want to see them continue to play because they're exciting and it's great basketball, NBA basketball, championship caliber basketball in the state of Tennessee, and I'd love to be able to discuss that at greater length throughout the course of the summer. But something about this it doesn't feel like they just feel like they're kind of half-baked as far as playoff contention is concerned for the Grizzlies. Josh Pate, CBS Sports, 247 Sports. There's a lot going on in the world of college football. The tectonic plates are shifting. And by the way, we haven't talked about the Kentucky Derby yet because that was historically unprecedented what happened with Rich Strike on Saturday afternoon. There was one college football coach that made a comparison to what Rich Strike did in the Derby, the college football playoff expansion. And we're going to have our buddy Josh Pate describe that coming up next.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Most certainly is. Welcome back. We're very pleased, honored even, to have our buddy Josh Pate, CBS Sports HQ, 24/7 Sports, Late Kick Live. Make sure you're subscribed to the 247 Sports channel on YouTube to make sure that you get all of the great content that our buddy is producing. I'm glad to see you survive. By the way, you want to tell people what you did to troll Lucas a couple of days ago? Because we were sitting together at a soccer game when this happened. And I thought it was laugh out loud funny, but I don't think he appreciates. Are you harboring any ill will, by the way, towards Josh Pate? Is this tense for you?
Much ill will.
So I hoped you were in the vicinity. I couldn't know that, but I hoped you were in the vicinity. So I texted him, knowing what our conversation centered around last time, and I said, Lucas, ask me if I can come on the show tomorrow. And there was like an hour that went by, so it simmered. And he said, hey, can you come on the show tomorrow? And I already had it typed out. So I just copied and pasted. No, man, I'm going storm chasing. Sorry.
Was in drafts.
It is the best excuse ever to flake on us. Now, not flake on us. Josh Pate has no commitments to us whatsoever, other than he is a good human who takes time out of his very busy schedule to come hang out with us. But if you wanted a reason to get out of doing a radio interview, I'm storm chasing in Oklahoma on Monday is a great way to do it.
Again, that's the second time I've shot that to him.
I know.
Yeah, so we've used that. But I was telling you during the break, you got to be careful. You know, there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. Because I went out there in Oklahoma on Monday, saw a lot of great scenery, but didn't get to see any, confirmed touchdowns. Well, then I come back, and 48 hours later, some of the towns that I had been in got kind of leveled. So I told you, you've got the human side of you, and you got the atmospheric science side of you, and one side says, oh, I wish I was out there. You guys are so lucky. And then you got to remember, oh, someone's home just got leveled. We got to be careful what we say publicly about that. Luckily, this show's not public, so we can say whatever we want to.
Nobody's listening. No, we're happy to have you back. There's a lot going on in college football that I'm excited to get into with you, because what Greg Sankey and the commissioner of the Pac-12 are doing as far as the United States Congress is concerned, very, very interesting to me. But I'm more fascinated, Josh, if you can believe it, by what the hell Mike Leach was tweeting about on Saturday. What is he doing? Make this make sense. Now, for those of you who do not know, who do not follow horse racing, Rich Strike, 80-1 odds, won the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. This is a claims race horse. This is not somebody he's not going to be a favorite for the Triple Crown. This is just a shooting star across the horse racing sky. Mike Leach took to social media afterwards to make a college football point around Rich Strike. Josh, you want to tell people what the hell he's doing? Or can you explain to people what the hell he's doing?
I thought he had handed his phone to his grandson or something like that. Because, what came out was it was one of those things that was beyond the pale. It was beyond the scope. I didn't really have an immediate response. I was driving back from home. I went down for a nephew's birthday party / Mother's Day thing. So I'm driving home. So I'm like north of Atlanta. I'm in no man's land. I'm nowhere close to Nashville. And my eye, Josh, it just starts lighting up. And so I get to a rest stop. I look down and I see, picture this. My bad. I see something involving horses, Mike Leach, and the college football playoff. Yep. And really, those three make a lot more sense than with any other person. And finally, I got to the parking garage here at 1 a.m. I just sat there and I looked at my phone. I said, just what you said. What is he saying? And what he said, for those of you unfamiliar, is because Rich Strike at 80-1 odds won the Kentucky Derby, this justifies expansion in the college football playoff.
That's
and
right.
Then he just put his phone down and he left. That was it. There was no follow-up. You keep scrolling. Where's the follow-up? Where's the follow-up? There's no logic. There's no follow-up. So there's no argument that's presented. It's just, this horse did this, so Iowa football should do that, and I'm gone. So I had 24 hours to marinate on that. And last night we did a show, and I finally realized what Mike Leach is. He's an offensive genius. And so if he tried to come to Pate State and run my offense, I would love it, and I would open the door for him. But the thing about it is, it's the same way if I go to my family reunion down in Wedowee, Alabama, which I do every year. I'm not naming an uncle or a grandpa by name, but a lot of you driving around on 65 or 40 or whatever, you're listening, you know about that older, more seasoned citizen in the family who's got great war stories, like they may have been born in the Depression, they may have served in Korea, served in Vietnam, and you're just enthralled. They've got a lifetime of wisdom to share with you.
Right.
And they talk about their family and how they acquired their means and all this stuff. But then all of a sudden they just say something like, ooh, I'm a little sketchy on whether we should have integrated schools or not. And you go, whoa. We don't need all that.
Grandpa.
Stop.
Grandpa.
Stop.
Moving on.
Not now.
That's Mike Leach on much less serious terms. Mike Leach talks about offense. I'm like, wow, I never would have even bothered to think about this. But then he starts talking about the playoff, and it's just like you're searching for the off button.
He is such a bizarre creature to me. I'm delighted by him for reasons exactly like this, because there's no other reason for me to be discussing Mike Leach on May the 9th when college football is nearly upon us, and spring ball and all these things. We're ramping up to the glories of football season. But there's no reason for me to be discussing Mike Leach today with everything happening in sports. What? Has he made compelling arguments for college football playoff expansion before? Because I cannot remember him being strongly opinionated at any other point other than Kentucky Derby Day.
Well, he's made arguments. Now, compelling is a qualifier you added in that I will not go so far as to add in. This is a guy that has gone with the 16, 32, and 64 team proposals. So like pure whack job land. Yeah. So it's not really reasonable or realistic, but so he and I on that particular plane do not see eye to eye. We're not even in the same league on that conversation. But again, if he wants to talk air raid offense, I'll listen.
Josh Pate, CBS Sports 247 Sports, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Late Kick Live can be found on the 247 Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe so you can get those notifications right to you. And if you miss it live, the podcast is available wherever it is that you get your podcast. Now, this was something that stirred great discussion on last night's episode. I was listening to it on the drive into work. The worst takes in the history of college football playoff opinions with Mike Leach. Who would you nominate as having the second worst opinion as far as the college football playoff expansion is concerned? Because there have been some doozies across the sports ecosystem from all manner of places, whether it's media partners, whether it's coaches who are for or against. Is there a second place nominee to Mike Leach that you would submit?
I don't know that I put one face on it, but I heard it a lot last night. We'll refer to them as leeches, basically his fanboys. They would say something to you that sounds good. I call it bumper sticker syndrome. I said that on the show last night. Bumper sticker syndrome is if someone says something, it's just quick and it's in passing. Like, for instance, you are what your record says you are.
Yep.
And then you just move on. It sounds like it makes sense. It doesn't stand up to thorough analysis, but most people do not analyze anything thoroughly anymore. So it just stands up and makes sense. Now, if you dive in, you realize you aren't what your record says you are, because if I play the first toughest schedule and go 11-1 and you play the 95th toughest and go 12-0, I'm probably better than you, even though our records would not indicate that. There is a crowd out there that looks at the NFL and MLB and the NBA, and they think they're making a great argument when they say, all those sports do fill in the blank. Why can't college football do fill in the blank? And then you've got folks like me over here who shake their head and go, yes, you're right. College football is different. The regular season is disproportionately valued in this sport relative to those sports. The difference is you're not making the insult you think you're making, because I happen to love that. I gravitated towards college football and still do because it's different. It's unique. There doesn't have to be always this synergy where everything looks the same. You don't always have to drive down 2nd Avenue and see a fast food joint every 2 blocks. There can be a mom and pop barbecue shop over here that just kind of remains standing and people still love it for what it is. The casual crowd out there, the drive-by crowd, the crowd that could really take or leave college football, gets their voice amplified just a little bit more than I would like these days. And those are the folks that they don't really love the sport, but, since they got a mechanism here where their voice can be heard, they talk, and then someone puts a microphone in front of that voice, and you end up with things like, well, since the NFL does that, college football should do that. Right. That's like comparing, since you wear a coat in July in Anchorage, Alaska, I should do it in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Makes no sense, but if we just hear it on the surface, some people think it does make sense. So there's not one specific person who says that. There are a lot of folks, but I can't stand when folks say that. When folks say one sport does it, that automatically means college football should do it. No, it doesn't.
The dark web of college football. It seems like there's more of that than ever in my lifetime, Josh. I don't know how you feel about it. By the way, Derrick R., YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can interact with the show. Derrick R. on YouTube says, Josh Pate for commissioner. Forever and always, I
accept, by the way.
Very much in support of that ongoing campaign. It's between Pate or Nick Saban. And our money is on Josh Pate, who is kind enough to join us here in studio. That contingent of not really in love with the sport, but voicing their opinions and having their opinions heard, it feels like that's seeping into more of the college football discourse than ever before. And we stole one of your Twitter polls last week about just generally people, your audience in particular, being happy or unhappy with the direction of college football. How much of those outside forces are impacting the people that love college football unnecessarily from your standpoint?
Well, a lot. And so here was my entire reason for asking that. It's not scientific. I know there's a disproportionately weighted audience that follows me, that follows my show.
Sure.
So they're much more likely to think how I think. I get all that, but it's a pretty large sample size that we got. So it was something like a 3-to-1 ratio of people saying I'm unhappy with the direction of the sport versus people who said I'm happy with it. Not good. As
Right.
stats and info tell me, not good. And so what I just went on to suggest is, look, there's a lie that floats around out there right now in this whole NIL debate and the transfer portal debate, and should players be paid this way, that way, blah, blah, blah. And the argument is it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks. Those players should be able to make money, and there's just, it's bumper sticker syndrome again. You'd never dive beneath the surface. Two things can be true. You and I can think a player deserves to be compensated for his name, image, and likeness, and also, instead of putting a period, just put some ellipsis and then finish the sentence with, but we better be careful with how we do this.
Sure.
Because you could upend the entire sport in the process. Now, you may be thinking, why does that matter? Well, it should be obvious. But if it's not obvious, what gives a player value? If you're a wide receiver for Alabama right now and someone wants to pay you $1 million a year to endorse their product, it's not just because you worked hard. It's not just because you're talented, because there are tennis players on campus and golf players on campus that work hard and invest a lot of their time and energy and resources too. And they got mental health issues. They got every struggle you deal with as a football player, but they have fractional value to you. Why is that? It's because there's a lot of interest in what you do as a football player. The audience, the fan base, the mass national audience that is drawn to college football, that's what gives you your value. So when 3/4 of them are saying, what you're doing turns me off right now, you could either assume they'll always be there and make the mistake NASCAR and pro wrestling did, the late 90s, and then watch half of them walk out the door, or you can say, just because we can do things a certain way right now may not automatically mean we should just run through a brick wall and do those things, because if the folks who are giving us our value leave, guess what happens to our value?
Non-existent.
Yeah. Or either it's just fractional to what it was. And I think the height of hubris in our sport right now is assuming it's immune to all these things that several other entities before college football have learned. But if you're 20 or 30, if you're my age, if you're in your mid-30s, you've only known college football as a behemoth, as just not a global, but a national phenomenon. And it's not always guaranteed to be that. It only is that if certain portions of a status quo remain the same. And right now, you've got just this large percentage of the sport in a cement mixer. And what's the foundation? Like, what is holding college football down right now? What is that true foundation? And I mean, it used to be the student-athlete amateurism model. Okay, it's not that anymore. I'm not saying that's automatically evil. I'm just saying if you ask folks, okay, what's the plan? What's the new foundation? You don't get an answer. You just get a look to the left, a look to the right, a shruggy emoji, and then a bunch of people who say, oh, we'll have a meeting about it.
But that's what they're getting at the top, Josh. That's what drives me insane about the whole Mark Emmert experience. And I thank the sports gods above that man, after 12 years on the job and not a single success on his resume as far as college athletics governance are concerned. Everybody wants somebody to take initiative to step up to provide solutions to the problem as opposed to more complaints about the problem itself.
Right.
But when you look up at the governing body that is supposed to be offering it at least some semblance of guidance, and it's the same look to the right, look to the left, shrug, we'll have a meeting about it. What are they supposed to do? There's too many. It's already so fractious. And that's why I have such respect for Greg Sankey in the SEC. And there's reporting being done by Sports Illustrated about the lengths that he's going to try and get some kind of guidance from the United States government, which may or may not be a good idea, depending on your position about the United States government. But at least somebody's trying to do something about it. And I can't help but think that this has been a problem that has been eroding over time in ways that has not been discussed and not covered nearly enough. Now, maybe that's a prism of my own echo chamber of who I follow on social media. Maybe I'm not seeing the right people talk about this. But all of a sudden, in the last calendar year, it just hit everybody in the face. And I have to think that there were some substantial things leading up to the point that we are at now that I did not hear near enough discussion about.
College football woke up on January 8th, walked outside and said, it's cold. Where did this come from? That's essentially what college football did. No, you're not in an echo chamber. Well, at least not on this front. I can't vouch for the rest of your life, but you were dead on the money right.
The rest of my life.
Look, I don't know what you do when you leave here. But you're right. But here's the other thing to think about. I know it's fun to bash the NCAA. I do it a healthy amount too. The NCAA enforces guidelines that university presidents tell them to enforce. You know, it's kind of like where Roger Goodell gets his power from at the NFL level. Roger Goodell didn't wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to make this, and this happen. We understand who gives him his guidance.
Yeah.
So at the college level, at some point, it was Mark Emmert's job to be a punching bag. And boy, was he a punching bag. The most effective I've ever seen. At the same time, someone else has got to step up. University presidents, conference commissioners, like I told you the last time I was in here. The two entities that are the true power brokers in this sport are conference commissioners and television executives.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks about the TV executives because you don't know them by name. How often do you talk about Jimmy Pitaro? Like fractionally to Mark Emmert or Greg Sankey.
To an audience, never.
Never. Now, when the mic goes off, you and I talk about him during break, but it serves no purpose to talk about him on air because no one knows who that is.
And for reference, that's the president of ESPN and Disney at this point after John Skipper left amid some disgrace.
I remember being at the national championship game. I hope I didn't tell you this story last time I was in here. Stop me if I did. We were doing pregame hits, and Greg Sankey was down there. That's the SEC commissioner. And then
You didn't, by the way. This is good. Fresh material.
Okay. So Jimmy Pitaro walks over, and Greg Sankey had been talking to us. Well, suffice it to say, our conversation ended abruptly when Jimmy Pitaro walked up.
Yeah.
So I said, see you later, Greg. In the back of his head said, well, nothing. And so Jimmy Pitaro's there. Then Nick Khan, who kind of runs WWE now, but is also
mega agent. For all of you who are complaining about the A.J. Brown situation that got muddled by agents at CAA, Nick Khan is that for people in Josh and I's industry at the very, very top. Paul Feinbaum, Mike Greenberg, the names that you see across the sports media spectrum.
Herb Street.
And Herb Street.
Yeah.
Nick Khan has since left CAA to go run WWE or be a major influencing factor in WWE, much to the chagrin, it seems, here recently of a lot of wrestling fans.
Yeah, they're not happy. I left a long time ago, so I don't know. Anyway, They're standing there right near the pylon in the corner end zone, having a three-way conversation, and we're doing live hits, and I'm trying to take one of the boom mics and just trying to drop it up there because that conversation, that's where things are getting done.
Dictates the next 10 years of the sport.
They could have been talking about what they had for dinner last night for all I know, but the point is those three guys in that little circle there, they carry more weight than the president of the NCAA ever could in modern college athletics and moving forward. So like right now, I was telling Lucas during the break, a lot of these conference spring meetings are happening.
Yeah.
You're not going to read headlines about them. Truthfully, I won't do a segment on it in all likelihood. It's very boring to talk about. But I can tell you, we already had a meeting this morning at CBS about it. A lot of folks behind the scenes are asking. We got folks on the ground at places we normally would not have people on the ground. It's kind of like a war correspondent, but they're on the ground in Charlotte and in Destin. And what's happening is there's an understanding in college athletics that we got two shots here. One of them, as much as I hate to say it, is what you just said. We either get Congress, we go Hail Mary style, and we get what we should have gone for 20 years ago, which is antitrust exemption, where we can make some rules and not get sued about it. Or if that doesn't happen, we need to govern ourselves. I know that's a wild concept. Govern yourself, to police yourself inside so no one else outside has to do it. But what that would consist of is we're never going to get this stuff in writing, guys. So we can either collectively understand we cannot do this mutually assured destruction thing because what we're doing right now is mutually assured destruction. So absent antitrust legislation, we have got to have some sort of code, probably going to have to be unwritten, that we understand we're going by. Or else, what does it matter? Like I keep saying, if you live in the nicest neighborhood in the city, it doesn't matter if the city burns to the ground. Your property values are nil. Nothing matters about your neighborhood anymore. And that's a layer of these spring meetings right now. And like I said, you want to see a bunch of headlines about it. There's a lot of important stuff being talked about over the next 2 or 3 weeks in this sport that will go a long way in deciding the future of it.
Josh Pate, CBS Sports. You can catch him on CBS Sports HQ. You can see him on Late Kick Live, 247 Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. I want to ask Josh if college football can be trusted to govern itself. We'll do that coming up next. Oh, goodness. I wish that the show that we did off the air was half as interesting to everybody else as
Put
it
that
is
behind a paywall.
to us. Late kick after dark. Perhaps that'll be Josh Pate's next venture. Josh Pate in studio with us. If you are in the YouTube chat, if you are in any of the live stream chats this afternoon, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, head on over to the 247 Sports YouTube channel. Apparently, there is an incentive for Josh Pate to reach 100,000 subscriptions on YouTube before the college football season begins. So we are going to, just as if we have lended our voice to the case for Josh Pate for college football commissioner, I think we so too should be able to help him achieve that goal.
I heard that. I heard that there's something on the line, and I don't know what it is.
People are saying.
Management, high-level mustaches over at CBS have alleged that, there's a surprise in store. We're at 93K right now, so it's not that big an ask, is it?
No.
Just 7,000 of you.
Not if you've gotten the first 93, the last 7 are probably harder to do than the first 93, but still a substantial achievement either way. So we were talking about college athletics. This is applying to college athletics, even though Josh obviously specializes in college football, but college football has a primary role to play in all this. You talked about the idea of college football essentially needing to make a decision depending on what guidance they get back from the United States Congress, which is currently being sought by the commissioners of the SEC and the Pac-12 as far as how to handle the future of their sports. Are they capable of doing what you outlined, which is basically governing themselves? Because my initial reaction is that there are too many different interests across the board for there to be cohesion and a direct plan forward that benefits all parties.
You've got to have some stones in the conference commissioner chair. Some of these conferences do, some of them don't.
Sankey is that.
Yes.
Undisputably.
If I could duplicate him 3 or 4 more times, it would be great. But you got to keep in mind now, in this very complex landscape, we've got a new commissioner in the ACC. We got a new one in the Pac-12. We're about to have a new one in the Big 12.
And Kevin Warren is still
just whatever.
Whatever, man.
So
I'm a Big Ten person. It hurts my soul.
Kevin Warren's still halfway aggravated. They made them play football 2 years ago. So, yes, that's the stat eye, which is the plural of status.
Halfway aggravated.
Loses sleep over it.
I mean, that guy rolled his eyes when he walked into his I cannot believe I have to be here today. So,
Kevin Warren.
If I can look at that group, if you can convince me, yeah, man, they swing a big enough stick to where it doesn't really matter if proclamations come down from on high in Indianapolis, because those conference commissioners, they'll wrangle things up nicely. I'd sleep well at night.
Yeah.
I do not sleep well at night because I do not believe that's going to be the case. But yet that's what we're here with. Absent Congress passing antitrust legislation and giving college football an exemption to the laws that you and I have to abide by, then that's what's got to happen. Because here's what's not going to occur. What's not going to occur, although people keep crossing their fingers and hoping, is that they're going to check their iPhone on their lunch break and the NCAA got their act together. There's no act to get together, okay? It's already been hacked apart with a machete. There was, and I want to slow down and say this very, very carefully so you understand, in a world as divided as ours right now, in a country as divided as ours, college football found a way to get a 9-0 SCOTUS decision slapped on the back of their head. 9-0. If I were to take to the Supreme Court the argument that the sky is blue, it's 7-2 at best. 9-0. 9-0.
No, I know, Josh. I was screaming about it for months after it happened last July.
So I don't believe there's anything more that's capable of being done. And what they're talking about right now, like they're about to come out, they being the NCAA, they're about to come out with this sort of hardening or metastasizing of rules they already had. And it's like they're going to have a press conference to announce their rules that already existed. And all of a sudden people are going to go by them, which is being laughed at in front of the cameras and behind the cameras by everyone in our industry, much less the boosters and NIL collectives and whatnot that's out there. So that's not going to get the job done. And I've spoken to a couple of folks in the legal world who are doing work I really don't like, but yet they're doing their work. And they said within 24 hours, we would have lawsuits coast to coast, 48 hours max. And so that's not going to stand up. So what has to stand up is either you've got codes you go by that are unwritten and folks just understand the letter of the law is being passed down from our conference level, or the antitrust exemption. Those are your two ballparks wherein you can play and have college football still resemble what it has resembled.
Do you want to talk about actual football today?
I would love it if we're allowed to.
We are allowed to.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to do this to you every time. But it's such a fascinating world to me, Josh, and there's so many different elements of it that I don't understand, but I'm learning as we go along, and so I get sidetracked by these things that are outside of the actual product. The Nakobe Dean ongoing national crisis, I think, was one of the big, if not the biggest shock of the draft, the way that he fell to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it was a day 3 selection because of the things that were swirling around him. You were on the forefront of this. The disgust permeated through my phone. I got it by osmosis watching my Twitter timeline while sitting in a draft room in the Titans practice facility. What the hell happened there?
I mean, at one point, like, Nakobe Dean's mom called me and said, you need to settle down. This isn't that big a deal, man. I was worked up.
Take a step back.
So I've watched Nakobe Dean since he was in high school. I'm not saying I'm emotionally attached to him, although the video would suggest otherwise.
Yeah, it would indicate that you are indeed are, but I appreciate you distancing yourself as much as humanly possible.
What I'm saying is I have watched for a while people in draft circles. I call it draft Twitter. Draft Twitter comes at me, and they try and school me on guys I've known since age 15. Like, Nakobe Dean didn't have a learner's license when I was watching him play football. And I got a guy who's watched 4 months of quote-unquote film, which consists of typing Nakobe Dean in on YouTube and searching highlight reels. And he's telling me, that guy's arms are about 3/4 of an inch too short to make it in this league. That guy, I mean, I know he can ride all the rides at Six Flags, but he's not going to make it in this league. And I'm like, do you even know his middle name? Do you know anything about him? And the answer is no, even though they would never admit such. So here's what worked me up. Absent medical information that none of us can know, and that was just the rumor circulating. No one could confirm it. I asked 15 people the source, and all they did was give me a link.
Philly media was grilling Howie Roseman, their general manager, about this, and there was nothing that indicated that was a part of the decision-making, other than it was a hugely talented player that fell to them.
So absent that, you're just telling me that he warranted a 3rd-round selection. And I'm telling you, I'm alleging substance abuse, if that's what the entire league is telling me about Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, to give you an idea, and I know this is kind of anecdotal, it just doesn't apply across the board, but he was good enough in high school to have Nick Saban and Kirby Smart fight over him to be the quarterback linchpin of their defenses. He went to Alabama, he would have been the same thing he was at Georgia. And so that was a signing day decision by him. So I followed it hardcore in high school. He goes to Georgia. He is the captain. I mean, he's the air traffic control of that defense. And then he goes in the draft and falls to round 3 because of rumors of medical. But then you got Howie telling you, no, it's just, he's good. If we started the season tomorrow, he could play tomorrow.
Right.
Nakobe Dean will have so many people regret this. And again, for those of us who follow the college game hardcore, it will be yet another page in a growing book of guys that draft Twitter try to convince you they know more about that they didn't have the first clue about. When I was growing up, I remember thinking this, like when I was 11 and 12, I wanted to sound smarter than the room. And so anytime anyone questioned a draft pick, I would say, those GMs, those scouts, they know what they're doing way more than you do. And I'm not saying that they don't know what they're doing. I'm just saying there is not near the veneer of invincibility around the draft process that I used to perceive there to be. Like, stupid things happen all the time in the draft.
It is one of the dumbest things about what I do for a living as an NFL reporter, first and foremost, on top of being a talking head. But as far as that is concerned, why has it taken us so long? Because that seems to be a recent development as far as public discourse is concerned. I think we all know this who have learned and who have seen how the process goes and how many dumb decisions are made by people who make millions of dollars. That does not guarantee that they are smarter than you and I about the football players that we're tasked with watching each and every Saturday, or that we have the good fortune to. Why has it taken people so long to realize that, yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot with this thing?
I'll tell you what made it dawn on me. When I finally got in our business to the point where I had access either to NFL facilities or college facilities, and I walked the halls and ESPN was on the TVs and CBS was on the TVs and NFL Network was on the TVs, and it was all over the complex in certain buildings, I realized they're watching the same thing I am.
Yeah.
Now, they have more access, but they're being influenced. Believe me, they're being influenced by the same things we are. Like, when someone is talking about a guy that they're looking at and they see it on the TV screen, they stop and they turn the volume up. You may think this is crazy. I would have at one point in my life too. I'm telling you, it happens. It happens every day. I get hit up in my DMs by people in front offices and especially in college athletic departments fractions of a second after I say something, and they got a beef with what I said. Well, that's because they were listening to what I said.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and I certainly take the feedback. But if you're running my franchise, or if you're the athletic director or the defensive coordinator for my favorite program, I don't want you listening to me. I'm covering you for a reason.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be the guy who knows how to do it. I'm just supposed to be behind the microphone reacting to what you do, not the other way around.
It is, it's fascinating. Josh Pate, there's never enough time, but there is plenty of time for you to subscribe to the 247 Sports YouTube channel, for you to listen to Late Kick Live. And if you don't get it live, you can get it wherever you get your podcast. You can catch him on CBS Sports HQ. My man is all over the place producing fantastic content because there is no, I don't even want to say it.
Whisper it.
Off season. There you go. Thanks, buddy.
It is 12:04. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica, and mark your calendars. The Tennessee Titans will travel to Buffalo in Week 2 of the 2022 season as part of a Monday Night Football doubleheader. It was announced this morning. Titans and Bills will kick off at 6:15 on September 19th on ESPN. Part 2 of the doubleheader will be Vikings and Eagles at 7:30 on NBC. The NFL's 2022 schedule release is coming up this Thursday. For the first time ever, the Nashville Predators are down 3-0 in a playoff series after falling to the Colorado Avalanche in Bridgestone Arena Saturday. Avs scored 4 straight goals after the game was tied up at 3 to win it 7-3. Head coach John Hines said yesterday goaltender UC Saros will be unavailable for Game 4 tonight as the Preds look to avoid the sweep. Puck drop in Bridgestone Arena is at 8:30. You can catch Blaine and Mickey and 3HL broadcasting live from Poncho and Lefties right across the street from Bridgestone Arena from 1 to 6 p.m. Norris Trophy finalists were announced today for the NHL's best defensemen. 2 of the 3 been playing in this series, in Nashville's Roman Josi and Colorado's Cale Makar alongside Victor Hedman of the Lightning. Also, Vezina Trophy finalists will be named tomorrow. NHL analyst Kevin Weeks reporting that Preds goalie UC Saros will be one of the 3. Tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies playing Game 4 at the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference semifinals, down 2-1 in the series. Grizzlies star John Morant expected to miss tonight's game after going down with a knee injury in the Game 3 loss, where it looked like Jordan Poole grabbed Morant's knee going for a loose ball. Tip-off tonight is at 9 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Monday. Goodness, been moving quickly. Not done yet. Happy to have you guys in for the final stretch. Lucas Panzica, Robert Walsh, making sure we stay on the rails. Derrick Mason, former Vanderbilt head coach, former Auburn defensive coordinator, now at Oklahoma State, is going to join us here in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk about his pupil at Auburn last year, Roger Mccreary. New Titans corner, second-round pick by that organization just a couple of weeks ago. Your phone calls are welcome, 615-737-1045. That's the number, 615-737-1045. Jump in if you like. We haven't had a lot of room for calls today. We've been jam-packed and loaded. Lucas was worried, in my ear during the commercial break, worried about what we're going to do tomorrow because we started so strong.
Yeah, should have stretched this out.
We blew it.
Put all our eggs in the Monday basket.
I'm biased. I think we do a good show every day, but it has been a particularly good show, and we have had a great selection of guests throughout the course of today to help us with our conversation. So, the one thing that we haven't talked about, because we've got new what is it called? Imaging that plays at the top of every hour when the show starts. That many thanks to Lisa Manning and Rhett Bryan and Kerry Romero, who have voiced all of those things. But I heard Rhett say, if you want Titans talk, here's your guy. He's your guy. And I have done zero today. None whatsoever.
What would be more accurate today?
If you want someone who is going to make fun of the Preds for their color, for the yellow color that they wear, looking like dehydrated urine, he's your guy. I did that today.
Sums it up.
Which may be a better, it may paint a better picture, a more accurate picture of what exactly this radio show is. But nonetheless, there is Titans news that we did not discuss. But, I mean, here's the thing. Like, you wanted to lead with this morning, and I said no. I said no because I hate the NFL schedule release. I hate it worse than anything. Well, that's not true, okay? Actually, it is true. Here's why it's true. I hate it because they drag it out for a week. I get it. You want every second of every minute of every hour of every day when you're not playing football for the NFL to be a part of your discussion. I respect that as a business model. It is clearly successful, so let me not take shots at the NFL for being better at business than any other league. But The way that they're releasing this stuff, I've got like 6 random Europe games last week. I've got week 2's doubleheader released this morning. Bills at Titans, by the way, on ESPN. Monday Night Football, week 2. What happened?
Titans at Bills.
Oh, okay. My bad. Titans at Bills. Titans at Bills. Fine, but it's week 2. Like, I don't care about week 2 Monday Night Football. Just give me the damn schedule. They hold me hostage here, and this is nobody else's problem but my own. So it's very, very selfish. The reason why I hate the NFL schedule release. I'm held hostage by this thing. Okay, my girlfriend's trying to plan vacation. I have refused to let her plan a vacation for us at any point because we get 6 weeks where there's just no football. Where the NFL goes on summer break, I go on vacation. So I have refused to let her do anything until the schedule release goes out. I call her this morning. I say, hey, I figured out week 1. We can go to this wedding in Chicago that I'm supposed to be, that I'm physically in. So we don't have to worry about me flying out Saturday night and having to be somewhere Sunday morning for a game in week 1. They're playing Monday Night Football. Except I look at my email, double take, and it's week 2. Useless. I didn't want to lead with it this morning because it's not important. It's not important until we get to preseason, until we get the full measure of the schedule. Now, I will tell you, as far as competitive advantage is concerned, Titans are getting a pretty good break as far as the total distance they will have to travel on their road slate. It is among, by mileage, the lowest percentage of NFL teams having to travel for road games this year. That matters. That's actually something tangible that I can sink my teeth into and say, okay, this is something that is going to work either to the benefit of the football team that I cover or to the detriment, and something that's going to factor into actual analysis. I don't give a damn that the Titans are playing the Bills in week 2 on Monday Night Football, other than the fact, again, selfishly, that I would be able to go to Buffalo in week 2 as opposed to in week 13, when Buffalo is a decidedly less comfortable and pleasant place to be. I'd rather have Buffalo out of the way early on the schedule. Again, selfish purposes. For you guys, I don't know why you give a damn about that. I could not possibly tell you any interest that you may have unless you're planning your road trips, like me. And then I understand. For the rest of you, for the vast majority of you who are going to watch that game on television, what is this? Get it out of my life.
It's the fact that it's a Monday Night Football game that grabs people's attentions, because that's one of the first things fans look at a schedule release. Okay, how many primetime games did we get?
And it's a good game. Titans and Bills, whether they're here in Nashville or in Buffalo, and it will be 5 straight seasons that these two teams have played. That's a fun quote unquote rivalry. Now that rivalry has gotten precipitously better since you removed the was it the Peterman that was starting in 2018? Who was it might have been Tyrod. It might have been
I believe it was
Tyrod Taylor. So Marcus Mariota, it's gotten precipitously better since the Marcus Mariota versus Tyrod Taylor days. Now we have Josh Allen versus Ryan Tannehill, or if you want to do it the other way, Josh Allen versus Derrick Henry, right? Markedly more star power, markedly better as far as the entertainment value and the implications. Because these two teams have been down bad for a long time prior to the last 5 years that they've been playing this game. And it's just honestly a schedule quirk that it continues to work out this way for 5 consecutive seasons. And we'll discuss that more at length, because I do think there are some interesting parts of that particular matchup that will very early on define what it is that this Titans team is against another AFC power. But for the purposes of just feeding the NFL's news cycle by saying, hey, week 2, the first of the 2 games that they're going to play, Titans at Bills.
Don says you're wrong.
What?
Don has texted us.
Don texted me what?
Don Davenport has texted us. Said, this is one of your worst takes, Buck. Of course it freaking matters. It's Monday Night Football.
Don Davenport has group chatted it. This is one of your worst takes. Of course it freaking matters. It's Monday Night Football. Okay. Don, I don't care. I'll be there. I'll cover it. I'll cover the hell out of it. I'll kill it on the radio show that Monday. I'll react to it on Tuesday. Until we get to that game itself, don't give a damn. Just don't care. The only thing that I care about that game, other than the fact that it's a fun matchup and these are 2 legitimate powers in the AFC, I want to walk through the tailgate. I want to walk through the Bills Mafia tailgate. I'm going to have to do it with armor, probably an umbrella, because God knows what kind of fluids and liquids are flying around in at the Bills Mafia tailgate and how many different tables will be broken. Other than that, don't give a damn. So we'll talk to now Oklahoma State defensive coordinator Derrick Mason here in just a second. Of course, the former Vandy head coach, former Auburn defensive coordinator, and one of his pupils at Auburn, Roger Mccreary, was just drafted by the Titans. We'll talk about that with Coach Mason next.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Welcome back. We're grateful to have a very familiar face to Nashville sports fans joining us right now. Coach Derrick Mason, currently at Oklahoma State as their defensive coordinator, previously at Auburn, and of course, as the Vanderbilt Commodores head coach. Coach, it's a great pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for taking some time.
Well, thank you for having me on, and it's good to be in Nashville or on radio in Nashville. So, man, how's everything going out there?
It's going great. Where are you in the world today? I never know with college coaches. Are you on the recruiting trail? Are you at home? Are you getting any time to just spend some time before the football season gets into full effect again?
Well, no downtime really. I know we just came off Mother's Day, and I headed out to Arizona with my wife to see our folks quickly. But I'm back in Stillwater. And headed out into Dallas to get on the road recruiting tomorrow, and I'll be throughout Texas, Florida, and Louisiana in the next couple of weeks.
Well, safe travels, of course. The grind never stops in college football recruiting. We know that for certain, especially in today's atmosphere. But, Coach, we're happy to have you on to talk about a guy that you got to coach during your season at Auburn in cornerback
Right.
Roger McCreary, who the Titans drafted in the second round. It was. I guess people were interested, or Titans fans were interested as to why the Titans took a corner. But when you turn on the tape of what he was able to do during his career at Auburn, it very much sells itself.
Yeah, you're right. Roger's a dynamic player. He has a full skill set as a corner, and I had actually watched Roger, looking at the tape before I went to Auburn. Just looking at his skill set, and he played a lot of match coverage, a lot of man coverage. But in a year's time, what I found with Roger McCreary was a smart, durable, because he never missed a practice. A durable player who really worked tirelessly to be really good at his craft. Every day he came into the building, he came in there to get better. Roger could have left as a junior and decided to come back, and that was an interesting story within itself, because that's somewhat tough. To play for a new coordinator, not knowing what the system and scheme is going to be like. But, Roger had enough trust, in our conversation to come back. And let me tell you, his game went through the roof. His ability to play off at the corner position, as well as being able to get down on the line of scrimmage, his physicality, understanding of the game. I think he's a guy that's ready-made, for the NFL day one.
Coach Derrick Mason, our guest here on 104.5 The Zone. We're discussing Roger McCreary, the Titans' second-round pick. What the thing that comes up about Roger, Coach, other than the tape itself, is arm length. This general length for a corner is something that's the premium is placed on. Obviously, longer, more athletic players are of a higher value. But this is something that, even though he may not be the longest corner, the arm length is something that's brought up. He is all over his guy at any given point when you watch him. How much does the study that he brings and the effort and the ability make up for the physical things that he might lack?
Well, I thought Roger talked to me about, guys, who I'd worked with and who he reminded me of. And I didn't think Roger really reminded me of anybody, man, that I had coached. But I thought he was like Darrelle Revis in terms of his ability. Extremely, stout. Okay, like when you look at his build, he's got a strong build. And he's physical at the line of scrimmage. He can tackle like a linebacker. He runs like a corner. He's got short area quickness like a nickel. So when you start to add those things together, plus what he did his senior year in terms of showing the ball skill and ability to get the ball out of the air, that's a premium in that NFL. When you talk about having the matchup inside, outside, every down's a matchup down. Roger can go against tall receivers, as he's done his whole career. He can go against the speedish receivers in the slot, and he's been able to cover like the gambit. So when you talk about, how Roger's game is going to transition and what, his physical tools are like, then just look at the SEC and what he did to the SEC, because that's what he's going to face on Sundays.
The game tape is so great every time I watch him, Coach. Alabama is the thing that Vrabel cited to us in the post draft or post round press conference that we had with him and John Robinson after the fact. And obviously, you're playing against NFL caliber players, but that seems to be the case on a weekly basis in the SEC. Outside of the Alabama game, if you had to recommend a game for fans to go watch of Roger last year, is there one that comes to mind to you?
I thought his 4-game stretch of the latter part of the season was as good a football, as Roger was playing. I thought he played well in the beginning. I thought he played really well versus Ole Miss. Like, in my mind, I mean, we were a football team that was facing the #1 offense in the country, and virtually, with Roger, Smoke Monday, Jacoby McClain, we were able to neutralize that high-power offense, and it had everything to do with what we were able to do outside and inside in terms of covering, like their top wide receiver, whether he was outside or in the slot. That was Roger's assignment. But again, I think when you look at football players, I only had Roger for a year. Zach Estridge, the corners coach at Auburn, I thought did a really good job. But as we talked about how he needed to develop his skill set, it was going to be about making sure that he did stay healthy. So he took care of his body. It was about watching tape and understanding how to study opponents, and that was and that wasn't familiar to Roger, but Roger put in the work. And I think what you saw as the season went on, his game got better. His ability to key and diagnose got better, and his production got better. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for players, and granted, we were only together for a year, but he played in a pro-style system that allowed, his skill set, to really take off. And now, you're really going to get, an extremely talented player in Roger McCreary there in Nashville with the Titans.
Oklahoma State defensive coordinator, former Vandy head coach Derrick Mason, our guest here on 104.5 The Zone. The amount you can never have enough corners. I'm sure you know that as a defensive coordinator. I'm sure that's something that everybody knows if just paying attention to where the game is trending at this point. But when you have as talented and willing and capable a player at the position, how much more creative does that allow you to be with your schemes, Coach? Oh, I think he dropped, Lucas. He's calling back right now. He dropped in the middle of that question. That's what I get for being too long-winded with my questions. I'm sorry I took so long to ask the question, Coach. I assume that's why you were able to drop and call back in the middle of me talking. I'm sorry about that.
No, I'm here.
Coach Derrick Mason, our guest. So when you have a player as capable and as confident and as willing, as thorough in his film study as Roger at the corner position, how much more creative does that allow you to be in your schemes?
It allows you to be real creative. I mean, you're looking at a player, again, who can play inside or outside. He played outside most of his career, but when I asked him to match inside, his ability to understand, what he was seeing, what he was getting on mixed downs, what he was able to do on third down, his ability to maybe even, at times, be just well, I forgot, the NFL doesn't have boundary, but for us, man, he went from boundary to field to slot when I needed him to. I just think, for him, his understanding of the game and situational football, makes him different. And again, you saw him, physically show up on the perimeter, and I think that's important too. When you look at the running backs that are in that league and how you have to tackle both running backs and receivers, this type of player is not a guy who's just a nickel. Okay, man. I think he's a nickel. He's a corner. His special teams value, will show up early, but he's going to be dynamic in what he can do, and I think that's probably what the Titans organization saw, and they've been pretty good about being able to draft really good players, and I think in looking at a player who's there now for the Titans, Zach Cunningham, I think he brings that type of production. So, in my mind, that's what I see. I see elite production, and we'll see where it goes.
Coach Derrick Mason, kind enough to be our guest here on 104.5 The Zone. Coach, I appreciate you stopping by. I know the audience in Nashville is happy to hear your voice. Continued success and safe travels on the recruiting trail.
Thank you so much.
That's Coach Derrick Mason there with us on 104.5 The Zone. That was a last-minute addition. How did we get Derrick Mason in the middle of the show? Did you do that?
Well, we reached out last week. We've reached out to several former coaches, former college and position coaches of new Titans rookies to try and get some perspective, and they hit me back today.
Excellent. Well, we're happy we were able to make that happen. Tomahawk Chop 22 says, ask Derrick Mason how awful Brian Harsin was to work for.
Who wins in a fight, Brian Harsin or Mike Gundy?
Oh, it's a good question.
It's a great fight.
Mike Gundy's no longer 40. He's getting up there in age.
No, Harsin's younger. Harsin's bigger. He's very built, but Gundy's got the mullet. Total wild card.
You want the mullet? No, but the mullet is back in. Have you noticed this? What is it? What is it about? I don't know who's setting the trend. This is as old as I've sounded because this is people like our age that are doing the mullet. You have a mullet.
I do not have a mullet.
You have a mullet.
I'm getting a haircut today, by the way. Somebody saying I look like I'm wearing a toupee was it for me. That's what did it. I said, okay, it's time.
It looks like a Lego hairpiece that somebody just popped onto the top of your head.
Yeah, it's time. When that's the feedback you're starting to get, it's time for a haircut.
I'm looking at you, the camera angle that you have on Zone TV. It looks a bit mulletish in the back.
Oh, no.
I'll be honest with you.
No.
Yeah, so you're a part of the trend. I don't know who started the mullet trend. I don't know who would win in a fight, Mike Gundy or Brian Harsin. I know Brian, there's Auburn doing a very, very good job of trying to, generate good feelings around Brian Harsin after what kind of hell they drug him through.
Don't know who will win in a fight, but I know who will probably be in that job in 5 years from now. And it's probably not Brian Harsin.
Brian Harsin. But he can continue to bring around donuts for the student population at midnight to the library, as I saw on the Auburn social media channel. 615-737-1045 is the number. I really like that insight and analysis from Coach Mason on Roger McCreary, though. There's a lot to like about that player because I was curious about the pick. Not that I expect anything in the draft. I did not expect A.J. Brown to get traded in the draft. So what do draft expectations really mean other than you have a general idea of what the team that you cover, or in the case of you guys, the team that you're a fan of, you know what they need, right? And so that's how you kind of judge how your team goes about the draft process. So when they took Roger in the second round, I'm kind of looking at it like, okay, I've seen him play. I'm familiar with his work. He's a good player. You probably cannot have enough good players at the corner position, especially when the receivers are going to start getting paid $25 million a year. You want to make sure that you have cost-effective options on your roster to stop them, because if the wide receiver market is going up, the corner market and the safety market is soon to follow, as market trends go in the NFL. But every time you turn on the tape of this dude, you see exactly what Derrick Mason has just described. Hugely competitive, very thorough in his studies. I saw him run a post route for a wide receiver and make an interception off it. Like the receiver botched the route. So Roger ran the route in coverage and made the pick.
I'll do it for you.
It's incredible. It's some of the best. No, it wasn't a post route. I think it was a dig route. Either way, like he ran the route for the wide receiver and made the interception off the play.
You know what Jameson Williams did in that Iron Bowl last season?
He didn't play.
No, he played in the Iron Bowl.
He played in the Iron Bowl?
2 catches, 43 yards against Roger McCreary.
Okay. No, he didn't get hurt until the
John Mechie got hurt in the SEC championship. Williams got hurt in the national championship.
Forgive me, I had my Alabama pro wide receivers mixed up.
Mechie had a great game at the Iron Bowl.
Okay. But against Roger McCreary, Jameson Williams,
right,
who was regarded as wide receiver 1 in this draft had he not sustained the ACL injury in January. That's who your second-round pick locked up in one of the biggest moments of the college football season. So a interesting selection. I think people's initial reaction were, what does this mean about Caleb Farley? And in fact, that's what Cosell and I are going to talk about this Wednesday on the install.
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
What? You rebuke the notion, Caleb, that it means anything for you that the Titans drafted a corner in the second round?
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
I don't think Jesus has anything to do with it. I think that's very much, dependent on your ACL there, bud. Maybe you could pray to a higher power, whichever whichever your higher power of choice is, that the ACL rehabs adequately enough for you to start at outside corner this year. But I don't know. I think I like Roger McCreary, which would be a nightmare. That would be a whole nightmare.
What if Roger McCreary's starting over Farley?
Yes. It would be a nightmare for Farley. It would be not a nightmare for the Titans because they would have a successful option in place ready to go.
But now, still a bad look for John Robinson.
I mean, can it get much worse in the first round? Like at this point, honestly,
can always be worse.
I mean, it could be worse, but that's not fair of me to do. But after Isaiah, like everything else about the narrative around John in the first round dramatically changed. Like people could live with first round picks not seeing a second contract because you understood that Jack Conklin wasn't worth paying $20 million a year, what he got from the Browns, or at least in that first year, the way that contract was structured. You understood not paying Corey Davis the same amount as you were getting ready to pay Julio Jones, even as you understood that Julio Jones was in a different phase of his career and very, very much on the decline. Tomahawk Chop is saying that Jameson Williams was ejected in the first quarter for a target on a punt return.
That's right.
I thought he didn't play in that. Like I didn't know that he did that. I thought he did not play.
That's what it was.
But he got ejected early on.
He played. It was in the first half. He was on punt cover.
Okay, so the analysis there invalidated. But still.
Nick Saban sending his number one receiver shooting down the field as a gunner. I love it.
He got 6 more of them sitting behind Jameson Williams, some dude you never heard of. Well, now the phone lines are lighting up to yell at Lucas about what he got wrong. People are always there for you, bud.
Hey, McCreary covered him until that point.
Yeah, it was locked down for that whole like portion of a first quarter. Oh, goodness. Okay, so last call for phone calls. Do some polls. A quick reminder, this summer, Nashville is hosting the hottest party of the summer as WWE SummerSlam visits Nissan Stadium for the first time ever on Saturday, July the 30th. And 104.5 The Zone has your chance to win tickets. Sign up today at 1045thezone.com/contest. Tickets for WWE SummerSlam are now on sale. Get yours today at Ticketmaster.com. All right. Put a bow on this thing, shall we? Last call for phone calls. Do some here in a second. We haven't had room for them today. Been a really, really fun show. Alex Doherty, A to Z Sports Preds writer Josh Pate, talking about the world of college football. CBS Sports is where you can find him, and former Vandy head coach Derrick Mason on Roger McCreary. Jam-packed, loaded show. If you missed any of it, podcast available to you. The Buck Reising Show in your favorite podcast app. And should you throw us a follow on the podcast where you will get all 3 hours of the show each and every day, maybe leave us a 5-star rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that if you were to do that, or say something nasty about us as long as you leave 5 stars. Hell, if you say something nasty about us and you want it read on the air, we can do that. I think that'd be a good way, because people like to say nasty things to me all the time. Lucas, not so much. But if you would like to do that, I will read whatever nasty things you would like to say with a 5-star review.
I enjoy when people say nasty things about me because it doesn't happen very often, so I'm always very intrigued by it. So please.
What a just, I can't say the words I want to say to you on the air. Anyway, speaking of which, makes me hesitant to plug this as you continue your conquest to try and steal my job. You have a podcast, a new podcast. You want to tell people what's going on?
Yeah, episode 1 comes out today. We made the announcement last week. It's now available wherever you get your podcasts on the Zone Podcast Network. It's called Inside Zone, episode by episode, exploring basically origin stories of the people that work in this building, that work for Titans Radio, or have contributed to the Zone product in any way, shape, or form, and taking a peek behind the curtain a little bit and exploring how people got to this point. First episode comes out today with Ron Slay.
Is your phone going off?
Yes, it's my reminder to do the Two Rivers Ford read when we do the polls. Not that I'll forget.
Okay, so why was Slay first? Any reason?
Because Slay is one of the most interesting humans I've ever met. He's like the Pied Piper. Anywhere you go with Slay publicly, just the crowd grows bigger and bigger.
It's exhausting, honestly.
And
the only time I've been out in public with Slay is at the Tennessee-Purdue game.
The Music City Bowl.
I was so tired at
and
the end of it.
That was my first question to Slay, because that was the first thing that came to mind when I decided who I wanted to talk to first, and I wanted to explore that a little bit.
I was exhausted for him. I was exhausted for him.
But he keeps it up. It's amazing. I don't know how he does it.
He's got great energy. So you can check out the Inside Zone with Lucas Panzica each and every week.
Every first and third Monday of the month. But episode 1 will be coming out tonight.
Just subscribe to it. Tomahawk Chop says, are we going to the game tonight? Where are we pre-gaming for the Preds game? Going to get pretty boozed up for an 8:30 puck drop. I'll be there. You're not going to the game, are you?
I am not going to the game tonight.
Okay, I will be there. And if you need a place to pregame and drink your sorrows away, as the Preds are likely to get eliminated tonight, you can do so with Blaine and Mickey and 3HL. They're broadcasting live from Poncho and Lefties. It's literally across the street from the Bridgestone Arena Plaza. They're going to be out there doing their shows from 1 to 6. Puck drop at 8:30, so you can spend some time with the crew, and then you can drink your Preds playoff misery away. And maybe they'll get desperate and they'll win a game tonight. And that will be exciting for all of us. And so you can get a full head of steam on before an 8:30 puck drop. Somebody also adds that the Buck origin story is going to be dark. Am I on the list? You haven't asked me to be on this podcast.
I have not. Do you have anything interesting to share?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, Ron Slay's played professional basketball in like a dozen countries. So unless you got something that can match up with that.
I bet you I've been to more countries than Slay has. If you really want to get into it.
I don't know, man. You look at the list of countries he's played in.
Do you have the list?
Nuts. Oh, I used to have it in front of me, but I can rattle off right now. Switzerland, Venezuela, Italy, Portugal, Turkey. Oh, gosh. What else? France, Germany.
I'm prepared to say I've been to more countries than Ron Slay has. But you'll have to listen to the Inside Zone for that if Lucas decides to have me on. Buffalo is in Portland. Hello, Buffalo.
Hey, how you doing this morning?
We are great, brother.
Kind of lunchtime, I guess. I'm going to be taking 2 of Station Camp Bison soccer players down to Geodis Park Wednesday night. Thank you for your Ed McMahon to your Johnny Carson for informing us that us season ticket holders don't have a ticket to that game.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I didn't know either until Lucas told me.
I didn't either. I was lining some stuff up. I was like, whoa, I better go buy some tickets. So I got actually 4 tickets. I only hold 3. But I got 4, and we're going to be in that metal triangle, whatever that thing's called, that big triangle part. Should be a fantastic time. Let me tell you, that guy that I forget his name. He's got the white hair, number 10. When he kicked that ball from the corner and it went it just got caught in the top of the net for 6 inches, it would have been a goal. It went right over everybody's head. We had the back view of it, and he hooked that thing like it was on a remote control, and he was steering the ball. I could not believe it. It was fantastic. Y'all have a good day, all right?
Thanks for the call, Buffalo. You as well. Safe travels. He calls us from Portland today. That's the number 10 with the white hair is Hani Mukhtar, who is one of the most dynamic players in MLS for exactly that reason.
Yeah, Hani Mukhtar probably should have won MVP last season, a candidate again this time around.
Quickly to the polls.
Hello, everyone listening to the Buck Reising Show. This is Benjamin Kenobi, better known as Obi-Wan. I have but one thing to say. Lucas, use the Force. Use the Force, Lucas, to help interpret what the hell Chewie is saying. Oh, scrap that rubbish.
Lucas, I am not your father. I repeat, I am not your father, nor am I Buck's father.
I was once a Jedi Knight, and what I'm trying to say is, Lucas, it's time to update the final poll results here on the Buck Reising Show. Do it now.
Now, he said.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. You can custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They will deliver it to you when it gets manufactured. Do the Preds get swept tonight? 90% say yes.
Yeah, I'm with the 90%.
Cousin Brian says, love this team to death, but they are outmatched. No sorrows. Colorado is much deeper. Preds defensemen besides Yossi and Ekholm, not as talented. Got work to do in the offseason.
Hey, I tell you what, you may love this team, but there's a lot less love for them after the way this playoff series has gone. It'd be a hell of a lot less if they get swept tonight.
Can the Grizzlies survive without Ja Morant tonight? 71% say no.
Well, they've done it. They've done it for a good portion of their regular season.
They are 20-5 without Ja Morant this season.
Playoffs are different, but yeah, they can survive without Ja.
Was the Jordan Poole play against Ja Morant dirty? 55% say yes.
No. The 55% of you are blindly homerific on that. I just think it was a play. Relax.
Do you consider Titans versus Bills a rivalry? 60% say yes.
In the last couple of years, for sure. Now, it's felt even more so. I think that's a little bit of recency bias because because it will be 5 straight seasons that they've played. Though the last 3 games, well, really only the last 2 games because the 2020 game was a ass-kicking. Titans just beat the holy hell out of Buffalo. But yeah, they're always fun games, and there's a lot of energy, excitement around it, and this year it will be in Orchard Park.
They've been more high scoring in the last 2 years, which is good. The first 2, you could probably, the combined score from those first 2 games might be the combined score from 2021's game.
Again, it's a much different experience with Josh Allen and Ryan Tannehill than Marcus Mariota and the Peterman.
Do you consider Titans versus Bills? Oh, no, we already did that one.
Yep.
All right. At NFL, just release the damn schedule. 94% say yes, 6% say yes.
Yes. I hate this week. I hate schedule release week because they turn it into a full week. Don't send me an email Monday giving me the week 2 Monday night football slate. I don't care.
It's announcements for announcements, right? Like news. We have an announcement. This is when the NFL will announce the schedule release.
It's exhausting.
Did Ja Morant, A.J. Brown it? 58% say no, 42% say yes. Majority of the replies say, Buck, what does this even mean?
No idea. No context polls are my favorite. Well, listen, that means that portion of the Twitter audience isn't listening to the radio show, so damn them. Do better.
But he did A.J. Brown it.
He did A.J. Brown it.
Tweeted something and deleted it.
He deleted the tweet. Stick to the code. Delete.
Those are the polls.
That's the show. Blaine and Mickey, they are at Poncho and Lefties. You can go hang out with them on your lunch break if you want. 3HL will be there as well. If you're going to the Preds game tonight, I hope I see you there. If not, I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.